The Beaumont family Christmas dinner was in full swing when my older brother, Daniel, decided to make me the evening's entertainment. I sat at the far end of the 12-foot mahogany table in my parents' historic Savannah estate, methodically cutting into my mother's imported truffle-stuffed goose, while Daniel, 3 bourbons in, decided to check in on my life. "So, little sister," he called down the table, smirking over the rim of his glass. "Still punching the clock at, what was it again? Some software thing?" "Vertex Dynamics," I corrected evenly, my mind wandering to the board meeting I'd chaired just 12 hours earlier. My company, Sentinel Core, now valued at $4,800,000,000, had just finalized the acquisition of a cybersecurity startup the Pentagon had been eyeing for months. Not that anyone here knew that. To the Beaumonts, I was just Camille, the stubborn 34-year-old who turned down a guaranteed future at Beaumont & Co., our family's investment empire. Right, Daniel chuckled, his platinum Patek Philippe flashing under the chandelier. "The payroll processing place, how thrilling. Tell me, what's the going rate for glorified data entry these days?" Mother gave a theatrical sigh. "Daniel, darling, don't be cruel. Not everyone is cut out for high-stakes finance." I took a slow sip of champagne, thinking of how Sentinel Core's AI security framework, now complete with today's acquisition, would change the face of cyber defense. The kind of finance my family wouldn't see coming until it was too late. "Speaking of," Father interjected proudly, "Daniel just closed a $900 million 0 cents deal this week, youngest senior partner in firm history." "Technically," I began, but Daniel steamrolled over me. "Actually, Camille, if you're serious about career growth, we've always got room at Beaumont & Co. for administrative staff, filing, coffee runs, stuff in your wheelhouse." If he only knew Sentinel Core now held controlling stakes in 3 of Beaumont & Co.'s largest accounts, or that the market turbulence hitting their portfolio had been triggered by my algorithms. "That's generous of you," I replied smoothly, "but I'm happy where I am." "Happiness," Mother scoffed lightly, "isn't a rented condo and a 10-year-old sedan." I didn't bother explaining that the condo was a penthouse spanning an entire Savannah waterfront tower I owned through a holding company, and that the sedan was my low-profile daily driver parked beside my Aston Martin and Bentley. "Did you hear about the Sentinel Core IPO?" Daniel asked suddenly. "Some mystery founder's about to change the entire industry." I let the corner of my mouth curve up. If only he knew. Sentinel Core's upcoming IPO was the talk of Wall Street, though not for the reasons they assumed. Tomorrow's announcement would do more than launch our public offering. It would also quietly expose the fragile cybersecurity systems at several major financial institutions, including Beaumont & Co. "Maybe Camille could invest a little in the IPO," my sister-in-law Charlotte suggested sweetly from across the table. "If she even has savings, that is." My phone buzzed under the table, a message from my COO. "Final preparations complete. Press release scheduled for 9 a.m. Board unanimous on green light for the reveal." "Actually," I said, setting my champagne flute down, "I've been following Sentinel Core quite closely." Daniel smirked. "Thinking about applying for a job there? I hear they have great benefits for junior staff." "Something like that," I murmured, picturing tomorrow's press conference. The one where Sentinel Core's elusive founder would finally step into the light, revealing how the so-called underachieving daughter had quietly built a tech empire beneath her family's noses. "Well, enough about Camille's career," my father cut in. "Daniel, tell everyone about your new beach house on Tybee Island." As Daniel launched into a story dripping with self-congratulation, I excused myself. In the corridor, one of Mother's massive gilt mirrors caught my reflection. My sleek black dress, Miele-made but understated, passed easily for something a mid-level analyst might wear. Exactly as I intended. Another buzz, this time a breaking news alert. Sentinel Core's AI security platform poised to disrupt global finance. Major banks rushing to patch vulnerabilities. I smiled faintly. Beaumont & Co.'s outdated systems, the ones Daniel had once called perfectly fine, when I warned him, were on that list. Tomorrow, he'd discover just how wrong he'd been about his security, his firm's dominance, and about me. "Everything okay, sis?" Daniel's voice floated down the hallway. "Not feeling overwhelmed by all the success in here, are you?" I touched the small platinum pendant resting against my collarbone, a secure key holding Sentinel Core's core algorithms. "No, Daniel," I called back. "Just getting ready for an interesting day tomorrow." The real show was about to start, and my family had front row seats without even knowing it. The next morning, Savannah woke to a clear, icy blue sky. I sat in my real office, the penthouse floor of Sentinel Core's waterfront headquarters, watching a wall of screens as the financial networks braced for what would become a historic market opening. "Miss Beaumont," my assistant Miles said quietly from the doorway. "Your family has arrived for the investment consultation as planned," Miles said, stepping into my office. "They're in the main conference room." I smiled, picturing Daniel's smug expression as he prepared to lecture his struggling sister on basic portfolio management. The invitation I'd sent that morning, worded to make it seem like I was seeking his expert advice on how to invest my meager savings, had been perfectly timed. "Are the news crews in place?" I asked, smoothing the lapel of my suit. Gone was yesterday's careful camouflage. Today I wore a deep charcoal power suit from Rome, tailored so precisely it could have been armor. It cost more than Daniel's monthly salary. "Yes, ma'am," Miles replied. "Every major financial network is set up in the lobby. Your brother's already complaining about walking through the media circus to reach the conference room." My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Where are you? Important people are trying to get into this building. Don't embarrass me by being late to your own consultation." On the lobby ticker, every network was running the same headline. Sentinel Core founder to be revealed, tech world holds its breath. Several major bank stocks, including Beaumont and CE.Co's, were already showing early tremors. "Let's not keep them waiting," I said, rising. "Everything else ready?" Miles nodded, barely suppressing a grin. "Security feeds are live. Your father's checked his watch 7 times in 2 minutes. Your mother's critiquing the office decor, and Daniel has tried to network with 3 executives, all of whom ignored him." The elevator ride to the conference level was silent. Through the glass walls, I could see my family gathered around the long walnut table. Daniel was gesturing broadly, mansplaining something to Charlotte. My father kept flicking between his watch and his phone, probably tracking Beaumont & Co.'s slipping stock price. "I don't see why we couldn't have done this at the firm," my mother was saying. "This media frenzy is so tacky." Outside the door, I paused. Daniel was chuckling at his own joke. "Poor Camille probably couldn't even get into our building with her credentials. Best to humor her here." I stepped inside. "Good morning, family," I said evenly. "Thank you for coming to this investment consultation." Daniel swiveled in his chair, his grin faltering as he took in my suit. "Camille, what are you wearing? That looks expensive," I finished, setting my leather briefcase on the table. "It should. It costs more than your beach house." "Don't be absurd," my mother scoffed. "You won't want to miss what I told them next. Hit subscribe now so you're here when the truth lands." "You can't afford," Mother began, then stopped as the wall mount screens along the conference room flickered to life, displaying Sentinel Core's logo and a cascade of real-time market data. Breaking news tickers scrolled across the bottom. Sentinel Core founder to make historic announcement, markets brace for impact. "What's going on?" my father demanded, the edge of his voice betraying that his investment instincts were finally kicking in. "Why are we really here?" I picked up the remote and raised the volume. On screen, the CEO of the New York Stock Exchange was speaking. "In an unprecedented moment in tech history, we are moments away from meeting the founder of Sentinel Core, the AI security firm now valued at $4,800,000,000, 0 cents. "Oh, how interesting," Daniel interrupted, still blissfully unaware. "We can watch this before we discuss your investment options. Though, really, you should consider Beaumont & Co.'s new fund instead of—" "Daniel," I cut him off, "do you know why Beaumont & Co.'s stock has dropped 15% in the last hour?" He frowned, pulling out his phone. As the chart loaded, the color drained from his face. How did you know? Because Sentinel Core's AI security audit uncovered critical vulnerabilities in your firm's systems. The same vulnerabilities I warned you about last year, when you were too busy making jokes about my desk job to listen. The room fell silent except for the steady cadence of the TV announcer's voice. Mother's crystal wine glass slipped from her manicured hand, a splash of deep red staining her cream designer dress. "What are you saying?" my father asked, his tone low, the realization dawning. I turned toward the screens, now showing my professional biography alongside Sentinel Core's innovations. "I'm saying," I smiled, "that the mysterious founder everyone's been speculating about, the one about to revolutionize financial security and expose outdated banking systems, has been sitting at your Christmas table all along?" The expressions that followed were worth every holiday spent enduring condescension, every smirk, every dismissive wave of Daniel's watch-clad hand. But this was only the opening move. The market reaction was already unfolding like a perfectly timed chess match. I remained standing at the head of the table, watching my family's carefully constructed image collapse in real time. This is impossible," Daniel stammered, scrolling frantically through news articles. You can't be." "Just what, Daniel?" I asked softly. "Just your little sister? Just a paper pusher? Just a failure?" The screens continued cycling through Sentinel Core's achievements, each one a direct answer to every insult they had ever thrown my way. Mother sank into her chair, the red wine stain spreading, a perfect symbol for the day's unraveling. "The security vulnerabilities," my father said slowly, his banker's mind finally connecting the dots. "Beaumont and Co. Stock dropped. You planned this." "Actually," I slid a leather-bound folder across the table. "I tried to prevent it. Remember last year's Christmas dinner? When I mentioned that major financial institutions needed urgent cybersecurity upgrades?" Daniel's jaw tightened, color rising in his face. "When I told you we had top-tier security and you didn't know what you were talking about?" "Yes," I said evenly. "That conversation." I turned my laptop toward them, showing a live feed of breach attempts being intercepted by Sentinel Core's AI. "Your top-tier security has been compromised 47 times in the last hour alone. My system stopped each one." Charlotte, who had been unusually quiet all morning, finally spoke. "But your condo, your car, your clothes were all deliberate," I finished for her. "Do you honestly think someone worth $4,800,000,000, 0 cents lives in a modest rental? That waterfront building you've looked down on for years? I own it, along with half the block." Outside the glass walls, the media frenzy had reached a fever pitch. Crews were setting up for the official reveal. Right on cue, Miles appeared in the doorway. "Miss Beaumont, the board is ready for your presentation, and—" He paused, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Beaumont & Co.'s CEO is on line 1. Something about an urgent security consultation?" My father shot to his feet so quickly his chair toppled over. "You need to stop this. The market impact—" "The market impact?" I cut in. "Is exactly what I warned you about. Every time you dismissed my concerns about outdated systems, called them unnecessary expenses, this was the risk." I tapped a key, bringing up another screen. Beaumont & Co.'s client portfolio. "In the last hour, 3 of your largest clients have already contacted Sentinel Core for emergency upgrades. By market close, that number will triple." Daniel leaned forward, still grasping for control. "Dad, we can fight this. Our lawyers are currently reviewing Sentinel Core's full security audit," I interrupted. "The same audit proving your firm ignored critical vulnerabilities, risking client data. Would you like to guess how that plays out in court?" Silence. Only the muffled hum of reporters outside and my mother's quiet sniffling. "Why?" she finally whispered. "Why go through all this deception? Why not just tell us?" I stood, smoothing the lapel of the very suit Amanda had tried to buy last month and couldn't afford. "Tell you? Like when I tried to share my first AI breakthrough?" When Dad said I was playing with computers instead of focusing on real business, or maybe when Daniel suggested I stick to data entry because it was more my speed. I walked to the window, gazing at the Savannah skyline, one increasingly shaped by towers and properties owned quietly through my shell corporations. Every time I tried to show you what I was building, I said, turning back toward them, you saw what you wanted to see, the family disappointment, the one who wouldn't follow the prescribed path. I let the pause stretch, letting them feel it. So I stopped trying to make you see. And instead I built something so undeniable that even you couldn't dismiss it. Though, I'll admit, I added with a faint smile, watching you mock my desk job while I was buying up your clients was entertaining. My phone buzzed. A message from our PR director, press conference ready, Forbes exclusive, waiting for your signal. Now, I said, picking up my briefcase, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. Miles will show you out through the back entrance, of course. Wouldn't want you to face the reporters just yet. Wait, Daniel called after me, a flicker of desperation in his voice. Maybe we can work together. Beaumont & Co.'s resources, I replied, are exactly what I don't need. But if you're interested in upgrading your security, my sales team would be happy to provide a quote. Fair warning, our services aren't cheap. At the door I paused and glanced over my shoulder. Oh, and Daniel, about that beach house on Tybee Island you were bragging about last night? I smiled. Check who owns the land it's built on. Sentinel Corps' real estate holdings might sound familiar. The walk to the press conference was short, but with each step I felt the years of condescension, dismissal, and underestimation slip away. Miles matched my pace, tablet in hand. Your family's cars are being brought to the secure exit, and Beaumont & Co.'s stock has dropped another 10%. Send them our standard security proposal, I said. Same rate as any other vulnerable institution, no family discounts. The media lights were blinding as I stepped onto the stage, but not as bright as the future I'd built while my family was busy doubting me. Sometimes, success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right so completely that their doubts stop mattering. Good morning, I told the cameras, my voice steady and certain. I'm Camille Beaumont, founder and CEO of Sentinel Corps, and I'm here to change the way the world thinks about security in the digital age. I want to hear from you. You've seen the way my family doubted me, the dismissive smiles, the subtle digs, the outright mockery. You've watched me stand in rooms where I was underestimated, told I wasn't enough, and then turned that underestimation into the very fuel that built an empire. If you've ever been in my shoes, told you weren't capable, smart enough, or ambitious enough, I want you to share your story in the comments. Tell me about the moments you proved them wrong, or the moments you're still working toward that breakthrough. Your voice matters here. And if you believe in what I'm doing, not just building a company, but dismantling the idea that anyone gets to decide your worth but you, then hit that subscribe button. Because this isn't the end of my story. The next move will be bigger, and I want you in the room when it happens. Here's what I've learned. Success is not about convincing the doubters. It's about proving yourself right, over and over again, until their opinions stop mattering. It's about strategic patience, knowing when to stay quiet, when to act, and when to let the results speak so loudly they drown out every insult you've ever heard. So take it from me, you don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself enough to keep building, even when no one else sees the foundation. Trust your vision, protect it, and when the time is right, reveal it in a way that no one can ignore. Subscribe, comment, and remember, the most powerful revenge isn't anger, it's undeniable success.